It's me, MLB. Here is chapter 22 of Future, and this one is titled Shouto x Avengers, Part 1. Been on a private plane before, Shouto? Steve asked as Shouto stared with wide-eyed wonder out the window, then around the cabin. Well, yes, but nothing like this, he said, pushing some buttons on the inbuilt menu board embedded in the seat. Steve smirked. This is Tony Stark's private plane. He wanted to, and I quote, bring the Japanese hero in with style. Sho chuckled lightly. Why doesn't that surprise me? When they had landed at the Avengers headquarters, Steve led Shouto off the plane and towards the big doors. He led him up to the meeting room, where all the Avengers were assembled, and they all turned to look at the new hero who had entered. Pleasure to meet you all, Shouto said, bowing deeply with his head lowered. Respectful, Natasha commented, crossing her arms and raising an eyebrow as she stepped back from the table that they were standing around. Okay, let's not go writing wedding vows now, Tony cut in, seeing how Natasha's eyes travelled over the new handsome Japanese hero as he stood back up. Shouto Todoroki, I assume? He said, addressing Shouto. Yes, sir, Shouto said, making gentle eye contact with the overconfident hero. What can you do? Tony said bluntly. Sir? Shouto asked, a slightly confused look washing over his face. What are your powers? What can you bring to the plate? Tony asked impatiently. Oh, my quirk, Shouto said. It's probably not safe to demonstrate it at full power in here, he said, looking around the room. Tony scoffed. Find that hard to believe, he said in a condescending tone. Shouto shot him an icy stare. I'm acquainted with your personality, Mr. Stark. You're welcome to take me on in a duel, if that's what you're after. Oh, I like a man with spunk. Bring it on, kid, Tony said, pushing off from the table and walking over to Shouto. Follow me, he said as he walked past. Shouto turned and gave Steve a confused look. Steve was rolling his eyes and shaking his head. Don't go easy on him, Shouto. Give him all you have. Shouto nodded and followed after Tony. The other Avengers followed shortly after, curious to see the showdown that was about to happen. Inside an enclosed arena, Stark summoned his suit and put it on. Okay, kid, bring it on, he said as the visor dropped down. Shouto stomped his right foot heavily and ice shot out from the front of him, shards at the end speeding towards Iron Man. Iron Man swiftly dodged by taking to the air and firing a series of rubber bullets at Shouto, who threw his right hand out and instantly created a solid ice wall. Impressive, Bruce said, watching from the sidelines. What's his power? Ice? He asked, turning to Steve. He actually has two powers. They call them quirks. He can throw ice from his right side and fire from his left, he said, keeping his eyes on the fight. So far, Iron Man was on the offense, and Shouto was just casually defending himself by throwing up ice walls. Have you seen him in action before? Natasha asked, observing Shouto's footwork as he manoeuvred away from Iron Man's next attack. No, actually, first time, Steve said. He's a calm and collected hero, though, as you can see. Is he starting to slow his movements? Hawkeye asked from the back of the group. Yeah, he is, Natasha agreed, seeing that ice was starting to form on Shouto's arm and his movements were becoming a little heavier and stiffer. Iron Man had been relentless in his attacks, and Shouto was starting to tire with his ice quirk reaching capacity. Watch him, Steve said with a smirk. Suddenly Shouto threw out his left arm and shot a beam of fire into Iron Man's path, causing the flying hero to balk mid-flight and give Shouto a chance to throw another shard of ice to capture his leg. With Iron Man temporarily captured, Shouto activated both sides of his quirk and assaulted Iron Man head-on, both fire and ice encasing the suit as Shouto deployed his finishing move to end the duel. Jarvis was relaying critical information to Tony inside the suit and advising him to disengage immediately as the heat from the fire was starting to burn out valuable equipment inside the suit. Tony quickly fired the rockets from the base of his boot and shot out of range, settling down on the other side of the arena and opening his visor to indicate a break in the duel. Shouto had disengaged his quirk by this point and was standing on guard, breathing heavily with half of his uniform burnt off. We'll need to get him a fireproof suit, Bruce commented. Do we though? Natasha asked, admiring Shouto's chiselled form. You boys done? Steve called out. I've seen enough, Tony replied from the other end of the room, and Shouto nodded. Good, let's get back to the conference room then, Steve said, beckoning for Shouto to follow him. Nice display, Bruce said, sidling up beside him as they walked back to the room. Were you born with those powers? Yes, sir. It's a long story, but yes, I was born with them. Were you born with your transformation quirk? Shouto asked, referring to the Hulk that Bruce transformed into. Transformation quirk? Oh, you mean him. No, I was exposed to gamma radiation initially, Bruce said quietly, avoiding continuing the conversation. I see, Shouto said, eyeing Bruce. Are most of the Avengers' powers from exposure to something, or are they naturally occurring? Everyone is different, Bruce continued. Some aren't even powers, they're just honed skills, like Black Widow. Hand-to-hand combat, Sho clarified. Bruce nodded. Master in covert arts, martial arts and espionage. She does have a stun bracelet that she does use occasionally. A fellow hero of mine, named Chargebolt, has an electricity quirk. He uses specially designed discs that attracts the charge, so when he deploys his quirk it doesn't become rogue and electrocute everyone around him, Shouto said. And there ends 22, and stay tuned for 23 coming tomorrow.